I remember hearing the news, as I'm sure many of you do. I was in a car on my way downtown to Chicago and heard the report that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. By the time I got to my meeting, the second plane had hit, and we were told to evacuate the building. And people gathered on the streets downtown Chicago and looked up at the sky and the Sears Tower. And like many of you, I feared for our country, and I feared for my family. And we mourned the terrible loss suffered by our fellow citizens in those two office towers at the Pentagon and in that barren field in Pennsylvania. Back in my office, I watched the images from New York, the plane vanishing into glass and steel, and men and women clinging to windowsills and then letting go, and tall towers crumbling to dust. And it seemed as if all the misery and all the evil in the world were in that rolling black cloud that blocked the September sun. So what we saw that morning forced us to recognize that in a new world of threats, we're no longer protected by the size of our oceans or solely by our military power. In a globalized world, the power to destroy can lie with individuals and not just nation states. The terrorists use a world of globalization to travel freely, to transfer money, to use telecommunications to carry out their plots. On 9/11, they used our open society to kill on a terrible scale. After 9/11, airline security tightened. Plastic knives replaced metal ones. After the so-called shoe bomber, we started having our shoes screened. After a plot detected in London to ignite dangerous liquids, we started to check our gels and shampoos. The danger, though, is that we're constantly fighting the last war, responding to the threats that have come to fruition instead of staying one step ahead of the threats of the 21st century. This is what the 9/11 Commission called our failure of imagination. And after 9/11, nowhere was this more apparent than in our invasion of Iraq. Instead of adjusting to the stateless threats of the 21st century, we invaded and occupied a state that had no collaborative relationship with al-Qaeda. Instead of taking aggressive steps to secure the world's most dangerous weapons and technology, we've spent almost $1 trillion to occupy a country in the heart of the Middle East that no longer has any weapons of mass destruction. It is time to update our national security strategy to stay one step ahead of the terrorists, to see clearly the emerging threats of our young country, and to take action to make the American people more safe and secure. It's time to look ahead at the dangers of today and tomorrow rather than those of yesterday. America cannot afford another president who doesn't understand the threats that confront us now and in the future.